Favourite Michael Jackson music.
Hello,
I was
is what we meant to say. Hello.
I was expecting some Michael Jackson music. Billy. That's it. This is Billy Jean. Sam from Victoria says Billie Jean is all-time favourite. What a great song, no matter where you are. It gets everyone on the dance floor, and it does.
Yes, absolutely it does.
And also Jacqueline from New South Wales says, thanks for the great Michael Jackson tribute. I've got a Michael Jackson tattoo. Doesn't say where, but Jacqueline is a Michael Jackson fan forever.
You didn't like my Michael Jackson impersonation, did you?
Oh, no.
Apparently I'm too dark.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right.
Well, a new arrival in the family is always exciting, but when relatives start giving their opinion on how to avoid baby troubles, well, that's when they become the problem.
So how do you tell family members to keep their handy hints to themselves? Our modern manners expert, Anna McPherson, is here with all the answers. Good morning, Anna. Now, Angel has written to us from Queensland for you, and she recently had a bub. Members of her family are continually offering opinions on baby matters without being asked. Now, she feels like she's doing a good job, so their comments are pretty much stressing her out. How can she politely tell them to, you know, stop?
Well, Angel, it's in your best interest to imagine that they are all wishing the very best for you and that they don't have ill feelings towards you about this. So try to be gracious where you can and smile and nod and say, thanks for that, I'll keep that in mind, Auntie Sue, and I'll bear that in mind for next time, Uncle Jim, and do it your own way. And if it really gets too much for you, have a quiet word to Mum and say, look, Mum, you've got to help me, they're killing me, they're overbearing and I can't stand it, and let your mother actually say to them, can you, she's got all the advice she needs at the moment, thanks very much. So just remember that they are wishing you well and try and be as gracious as you can.
Yeah, smile, let it go in one ear and out the other. Next we have Cecilia from South Australia on the phone. Now, Cecilia, what's your question for Anna?
Oh, yes. Good morning, Anna. I have a question, which is, now, when I meet people, I say, how do you do? And they say, well, thanks. I was taught to respond, how do you do? Now, which is correct? So, well, thanks,
Cecilia,
or how do you do?
Well, Cecilia, good morning. That is a very good question, and I think your mother has raised you well, because the appropriate response to how do you do is how do you do, because it doesn't mean how are you or how are you doing, and it's an old-fashioned one that trips some people up. So next time someone says to all our listeners, how do you do, you should respond with how do you do or pleased to meet you, because that's what it means. It means pleased to meet you. So keep doing what you're doing, Cecilia. It's quite correct.
All right, so respond to what's come at you. Is that sort of what you're proposing?
So I would say to you, how do you do?
And
then you go,
I'd go, hey.
No, you go,
how you doing? How you doing? That's what I'd say.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, it doesn't mean how are you, it means pleased to meet you. So you should always respond with a pleased to meet you or how do you do back. So you're absolutely right, guys.
Lovely.
And Cecilia.
All right, Anna. Now, Monique from New South Wales has also sent us an email. She'd like to know the appropriate amount of money to give as a wedding gift when the couple requests cash. Should it be equal to what the bride and groom may have spent when they bought her wedding present? Is that a good measure, you reckon?
Well, essentially, if they have already given you a wedding gift of cash, then give the same amount back, unless, of course, you're an uncle or a grandparent and you would like to give more. But I would suggest about $200 is an appropriate amount of cash to give, unless in your circle of influence it's generally less. So try to just we don't want to give too much money, which will make them feel uncomfortable. And but if you're in difficult circumstances, of course, less money would be fine.
Okay, finally we have an email.
All the bases.
Yeah.
Finally we have an email, Anna, from Emma in Queensland. She wants to know how you should rest your knife and fork during a meal. She was taught that a fork rests on the knife at 7 and 5 o'clock respectively, but sometimes she sees other people laying them down at 9 and 3, not touching.
Oh.
Anna, what's correct? This or this?
All right, it's very clear, the answer to this, Emma, and you are quite right. The fork crosses over the knife with the tines facing downward, and it is crossed in the middle of your plate. Now, the reason it's so particular is to say to the waitstaff, I'm not finished. And resting them on the sides of the plate is not correct. So always the fork crossing over the knife, facing downward when you're pausing. And we should always pause during the meal as well, just as an aside, to make sure that we are talking to the people we're dining with.
So the fork, the knife at 7 and 5 o'clock. See, I do it about like 7:45, my knife and fork. So that's probably wrong. 7:45. Thank you, Anna.
Yes, just
yes, go on.
so long as it's crossed, I'll let it through, Larry.
Okay, thank you very much for all your help.
Thanks, Anna.
How you doing?
It's a pleasure.
Thanks,
See you
Anna.
next week.
All right, coming up, Andrew Horner is here with all the details on the latest celebrity rehab check-in.
But first, Glenn's got some tips for making your family feel safe.